Forgot about that one step. Okay. We'll bring the
7:04.
7:04 Harrington regular council meeting to order at 7:04 in the evening. Thank you. Roll call for the city. Gavin is excused this evening. Everyone else is present. Stephen by phone. Thank you for calling in. We have no visitors. If we can do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry, Creighton.
No, that's okay.
I'll learn to forget my comment. We have no public comments. Any additions to the agenda?
I'd like to discuss the burning of Ecology Park.
Okay.
And I'd like to discuss road closures in the winter,
Okay.
just to formalize that discussion we were having.
Sure. Okay. Anything else, David?
I can't think of anything right now.
Okay. Creighton?
No, thanks.
Okay. Any items to remove from our consent agenda?
Good with me.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, first order of real business is to approve the employee handbook revision. I got that all typed up and based on my notes and scratches. So did you guys have a chance to go through it and it looks correct?
And I'll move the adoption so we can put it into
Oh.
discussion.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to adopt the handbook. Discussion.
There's only one thing that comes to mind is on our discussion, and I don't remember how we left it for sure, but in regards to Christmas Eve, or Christmas Eve,
It's in here. It's the mayor will decide if it's going to be the day before Christmas or the day after Christmas by April 15th of that year.
right,
Or April
but
1st.
you substituted that with Juneteenth though.
Yeah, Juneteenth got dropped off that list.
And it doesn't need to be, and it is dropped off the list.
And
Is that, did you check the lawyer on that one?
yes,
And he said it's fine?
he said nothing rang in his
Okay.
head that said it was an issue.
And at about page, 40? Approximately.
Yeah. My only concern is that in the future, if that would, since the employees don't have any
40, yep. Page 40.
time, they're not barred from taking any time off in any particular season or time. I don't know if this would, going forward, hamper the city in any way. In other words, if it was left alone, the employee could still put in for vacation those days.
Yeah. And remember too, we dropped the 2 floating holidays. that had previously
Right,
been
well,
approved.
that, I don't know where that all come from, but I know we seem to have a disagreement, or I mean, we had 2 different versions going around. But,
I found the Word version that was marked as being the final and approved.
did it have those on
And it
it?
had the 2 floating holidays in that version.
Stephen, thoughts?
I have a couple items just in general, but were you asking David about a particular thing there?
Well, this is David, I was asking you, 'cause since you worked on it from the original.
Only 2 things came to mind. I mean, with the holidays, I mean, to maybe close that discussion, I mean, I hope this is not the last time we'll look at the handbook. I think we've got it a lot closer this time, but we probably need to revise it again next year or something, just to go through and get the last little bits of things. But, and if we don't like what the holidays go for as we get to the end of the year and the way that worked, we can change the way that works again to get it even closer. But I think we've made some good changes there. The two things I was going to note is, one, I would ask Joe that in the footer of the pages that you put in the date on which it was revised and or approved.
Agreed.
The content of the document needs to include a date or version number or something. We can't rely on file names and the email that included, that attached this, to try and figure out what was done when. So that's one thing. Two, and this wouldn't stop me from voting for it because I think this is better than what we had, but I thought maybe this was just my anxiousness and the rest of the council wasn't here, but I thought we were looking to strike everything about a trial period because, Bingaman said that legally there are no provisions, like there is no protection. Legally a trial period doesn't exist because this is an at-will employment state. So that's our lawyer saying that when it comes right down to it, the trial period doesn't exist. Now we can pretend like it does something for us in this document, but I don't know what that does other than limit the employee's ability to get at stuff. And so, as far as the vacation time and all that kind of thing, and now there will be accrual, so we don't have to worry about, they would only be able to use that which they've earned by the duration of work that they've had. So, I don't know, maybe that was just me, but I would still like to see all references to a trial period struck.
Well, that's a good catch.
I would suggest against it, actually. Because if you hire somebody, go through the process of setting them up through medical, all the insurance and stuff like that, and then 3 weeks into it they quit, now you've got to go through and reprocess. That's usually what a trial period is for. Are they going to stick around?
If we do that, do we need to shorten it then? What do we have? What's it? I believe it's 6 months or a year?
It's a year. It's a year, and that's
Some people call it a probation, some people trial.
I mean,
What do we-
a 90-day probation would be, but what is our current process of insurance and all of that stuff at time of hire? Is it as of hire date, or is it end of probation period?
I mean, past practices, when do they get it?
Yeah,
A very good question.
I believe
I
it's,
think that we're required to do it on a higher date. And then the review date is on the anniversary date every year.
And to note, it's a year, section A of that, it's a year with the potential to extend an additional 6 months.
right.
If there is prudence to having a trial period to protect against what Chris is saying, I don't think that it should go all the way to a year and potentially 6 months after that, because I don't think it allows the employee to have much trust in their employer that it's for a whole year that they're hanging things over their head, and then at the discretion of the mayor just might choose to additionally put it another 6 months out. And there's no provisions in here for why that should happen. Just mayor can wake up one day and say, I don't like what they just did to me yesterday. I'm going to put another 6 months on it.
Right.
And, to the point of what David and I have seen over the years with the whole kerfuffle that's happened between previous mayors and employees, the accusation of that mayor didn't like me, so X happened, is not really something I want to continue to allow. So if we aren't going to strike trial period altogether, I think we could reduce it down to like 3 months or 6 months. I don't like this idea that the mayor can just at their discretion extend it another 6 months. I don't understand what the point of that would be for a town of our size.
Wasn't there some language in there or someplace that the trial period may be extended if there was, say that there was an employee hired and there was disciplinary action leading up to that.
Well, it's what it says, and well, this may not be right, the right version I'm reading, but
Page 18.
it's basically said an additional 6 months for positions requiring technical, professional, specialized, unique, or unusual skills or qualifications. So it didn't say anything about disciplinary. It'd be like, okay, we're giving you 6 more months to get your CDL or something of that like.
Well,
Well, and then section B says that
Yeah.
the
Oh,
trial period may be extended for up to an additional 6 months when necessary because of circumstances such as an extended illness or a need to continue to evaluate marginal performance. So
yeah.
the way I read this, all trial periods are at least a year. And I think at least one valid reading of the words as they stand, I don't know if this was the intent of the writer, but the mayor could choose to add an additional 6 months at their discretion, and there could be another additional 6 months on top of that because of evaluating marginal performance. The 6 months referenced in A and 6 months referenced in B are not explicitly said to be the same 6 months. So this may allow for a provision of the 2-year trial period.
Truth. Well, I remember the discussion being had about, removing the trial period. I just don't think that came to a conclusion because I had notes in here, with some typographical corrections.
would this in any way give us, I know Binghamton said it doesn't matter where it will state,
Correct.
so, but we've all seen trials and stuff, somebody filed a wrongful termination because maybe their skin was a different color, or they didn't like X, Y, and Z, so.
This book is never gonna change that from that,
Right,
from that
so
person.
would this trial period left in here, would it eliminate any of that exposure?
No, it actually increases it. In my experience. A short time period to see whether or not they're capable of actually doing the job.
Well, that's kind of what this says.
It's not that
Well,
short.
so then could we all agree on just taking everything in the trial period to just 6 months? No more, no less, 6 months period.
Is there? I wouldn't do a blanket one. I mean, if you've got a position that requires a CDL and somebody doesn't have one, you can make that a stipulation of the job within the job description. I would defer to whatever job description and put the trial period within the job description. That way job descriptions can change without having to change the employee handbook. That way, if you do have a minimum requirement of a CDL or a minimum requirement of, say, pesticide license or whatever,
Well, cut to the chase here. What is the rub? Why, if we left it in, it's been in here for a long time. What is it about it that's not fitting our program? Is it the employee not being able to take vacation during that time? I could see that being one of the major kerfuffles about this.
So actually, as you mentioned that, if we leave this in, we need to take paragraph C out. Because it talks about not being able to use vacation leave.
Well-
Because we've already addressed that in the vacation.
I think we kind of lean that way, that if they started and they're earning it, I don't personally have a problem with them using it. Putting strings or sanctions on them that they have to go the full year before they can even use it. I don't necessarily agree with that part of it.
I'm grabbing a highlighter, I'll be right back.
Colleagues' info, anything on it?
In the end, if you're not restricting their use of vacation time, then what are you really, differentiates them being a trial employee? I mean, isn't kind of a little bit of the point, since there is no legal recognition of a trial period, isn't part of the point here to hold their vacation usage over their head to get something from them? So there's, to me, so section C here says that you can use your vacation after 6 months. So I kind of don't see why it would make any sense to have sections A or B reference a time longer than that, because as soon as they can start using their vacation, as far as they're concerned, none of the rest of it is applicable. It can still be considered a trial employee, but what does it mean at that point?
Yeah, and I'll be straight up, the new vacation where it's 18 months, first in, first out, as they earn it, that now is in conflict with this language.
I probably would be in favor of just dropping the whole thing, and I'm agree with Chris, if they are required to have a CDL or a pesticide license or some kind of accounting, bookkeeping thing, then that's part of the job description, and this will be done in,
And have
It-
them sign off on that.
yeah, at whatever the mayor
Will have it
decides how
completed
long.
within so many days. If you don't have it completed, you're subject to release.
Yeah,
Yep.
Clerk,
Especially if it's an insurance or a liability thing for the city.
Mr. Mayor, for what it's
Yes.
worth, during both the DRS and the state audits, they did ask if we had clear and defined job descriptions for each employee. That was something that was really important to them because it hadn't been done by previous mayors,
Okay.
previous employees.
For a long time.
okay.
Well, and you gotta be real careful writing job descriptions.
Yeah, I hate doing that. Write it as open as possible. Well, your call.
we would
Which
have
page is this
to,
on?
17 and 18, I think is where it's gonna show up.
yeah.
Yeah, if I'm hearing that right, I don't hear all the discussion quite from the phone, but if I'm hearing that right, it sounds like we can do this in the job description, which we need to revise and properly set out our job descriptions anyway.
Yes.
So I would prefer to handle it there and strike the trial period.
So can we just vote, do we need a motion to amend the handbook, or just suggest that we take section 6 out of there, the whole thing?
Yeah, I think we should motion to amend.
Okay, I move that we strike section, what is it's chapter what?
Chapter 3.
Chapter 3, section 6? Remove it completely from the handbook, and that would be, then we would have to either just put section 6 deleted or change the following numbers.
Well, no, I would actually put something back in there that if a job description requires
Okay,
a specific training,
I'm all for that too.
then the employee must complete that training within the designated time period or
Correct.
be subject to release.
So probably us passing this tonight, if you're gonna write up something new,
Well, I'm fine with that language that Chris put in.
I am too.
With that.
I get that. I don't know that it isn't in here already under section 3. An offer of employment is designed to ensure no illusions what position is offered, the rate of pay will be, the start date.
What page are you referring to, Joe?
16.
Oh,
Or at a minimum, what you're talking about, not wrong, but probably is better served under that section instead of a new one. I'm sorry, who seconded the, or was it seconded, Chris?
Well, we're still working on the language
Oh,
of the.
oh.
Cassie has it.
Yeah, but nothing in that section indicates that completion of conditional offers may result in termination or incompletion of a conditional offer.
Okay, so let's do this. Chris, why don't you say that language that you did before? Joe, take that down and we'll change subject section 3C to amend it with the proper language for completion of that conditioned offer.
Okay, so you wanted it to say,
See, you got it specifically calling out completion of a required test, background check, or other process that neither the applicant nor the city is in control of. That language right there doesn't make sense to me.
no, it'd be an additional sentence in that
Yeah, I
sentence
would put
section.
something in there that conditional offers that require specific certifications be subject to job description defined time periods of completion or acquisition of said requirement. So if it's a spraying permit, you have 6 months to get your spraying permit. If it's a CDL, you've got 3 months to get your CDL, but that needs to be called out in the job descriptions.
Okay,
And then at that point, the temporary employee or the trial period portion of it becomes mute.
And to Chris's point about that language at the end of that sentence that exists there on C, I think I just changed that to certification. Completing a required test, background check, or certification, because other process that neither the applicant nor the city is in control of. The city not being in control of a test or a background check makes sense. The applicant not being in charge of that only kind of makes sense because, yeah, there is a third party involved with it, but if they do their job, they are kind of in control of it, so.
Well, it's kind of like
Yeah,
the spray test thing. If you catch it early in
Yeah.
the year, you
Yeah.
can actually get it processed here. If you catch it late in the year, you end up having to go over to the west side to take your test.
actually, they got a proctored place in Liberty Lake.
Now,
Yeah.
okay. So, but it's things like that where all of a sudden you've got a 6 month schedule to get on a testing. But that should all be handled at the discretion of the mayor within the job description, in my opinion.
Okay, so I think the amendment package here is take the or other processes that neither the applicant nor the city is in control of and replace that with certification. Add the sentences that Chris authored for subsection C. And then strike the trial period section and any other references to the trial period in the entire document.
I would agree with that.
Okay, are we gonna get a second on that one?
I'll second
I'll
that.
second it.
Okay.
So then we need to vote on the amendment, and then once it's amended, we can vote on adopting the handbook.
Okay, so any further discussion on the amendment? All in favor of passing the amendment, say aye.
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 I abstain.
Aye.
Abstained.
So 3,
0,
1, 0.
3, 0, 1. Okay. And we do have a motion on the floor to adopt the handbook now as amended. Any further discussion on that? Okay. All in favor of approving the employee handbook as amended, signify by saying aye.
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 Abstain.
Okay. Passes 3-0-1. Thank you. Okay. I will get that out to you guys at the beginning, or the weekend or the beginning of next week.
Don't forget the dates to put in there.
Oh, yeah, I've got that. Yeah, that's,
Yeah, I'd put a revision section at the beginning of the document that says revision
Yeah.
date, time.
approved, all the rest of it.
Yep.
So we don't have this mystery handbook going around again. Okay. Council meeting broadcast and recording format. I didn't know how else to word it.
Close enough.
So that's up for discussion, and it's an action item, so if you guys want to make changes, we can do it.
I prefer to discuss this when Gavin's here too, when all 5 of us are here.
Okay?
That's my suggestion.
And my only suggestion would be a cost breakdown of the individual options that were be provided to the council.
Okay, so
I
table
would
it
agree
again
with
and
that.
pull the,
I move we
Cost.
table the, what do you have it written down here for? Broadcast and recording format.
yeah,
Okay.
okay. Any seconds to the tabling?
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor of tabling the broadcast meeting format until next council meeting, I presume?
We can
Okay.
vote to bring it off the table at any
Okay,
point.
let's, okay, table it for now. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. And just as housekeeping, when would you like to see that back on the agenda?
Next meeting.
Next meeting.
You can put it on there, but we have to take it off the table. We can't do anything until we
Yeah.
move to take it off the table.
Yep.
See, my FFA stuff's coming through.
Your motion, I mean, you want all 5 members here, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that isn't why,
I
all
think-
I did
yeah.
was table it. It doesn't matter my reason before, but that isn't part of the motion.
Yeah. I think Gavin had some points of view and
Yeah,
conversation.
I just was much more comfortable if we're gonna take this step that all 5 of us are here.
Okay.
Did you have any information on the different?
Well, I had
You
sent it out to you the one time, so I can drag that back out and elaborate further.
Nothing's changed, or you haven't found any more or less, okay.
I just looked up the 3, and like I said, I thought Google Meet was checking off all the boxes, especially from an expense point of view. So, okay. Ordinance 517 is to approve the consent agenda on a permanent basis.
I move we accept ordinance 517.
Okay. Who wants to take the motion?
Steven started,
Steven started it. Yep.
you want a second?
Oh, he started already?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll second.
Okay. Okay, we've got a first and a second to approve ordinance 517. Any further discussion?
I'm good.
Okay. No discussion?
We're good.
Okay. All in favor of approving ordinance 517 to use the consent agendas, signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you. 517 passes. This is really more of a housekeeping. You guys already approved this, but I know how code publishing works, and if they don't see it in an ordinance, they're not going to do it. So I wrote up a quick ordinance to repeal ordinances 1 and 34, which were one vote you guys had already, and 434, which was the other one.
Move to approve.
Okay,
Second.
any further discussion? All in favor of approving 518, signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, thank you. Okay. Moving right along. I put this on there, town square usage. I don't think it needs to be that big a deal, but people have been asking if they can reserve the town square, and we don't have a clear process for doing that like there is for Memorial Hall. So my suggestion is we basically use the same format that we would do for Memorial Hall, because we've got a form that already addresses it, and I don't think we should be charging a fee for it, just because it's open. And what I'm trying to avoid is having somebody set up for some event, whatever it is, even if there's an event or not, but maybe there's a kettle corn vendor that comes to town and he sets himself up in the gazebo, and then some family comes up there and says, well, we wanted to use this, and you have this conflict.
Well, it's like the city park.
Mm-hmm.
Do we reserve any spots there?
I don't think that has become a conflict.
No, but it's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's first come, I would suggest it's first come, first served.
Okay.
We don't want to get in the middle of any of that. It is a public space for public use, first come, first served.
I would lean that way too.
Okay.
We don't want to get in the middle of any of that.
Okay.
Just saying.
I would agree.
Okay. Because it came up, the car show wants to have a live band, and they want to set them up there. So that's where it got my head to thinking. It's like, what happens if we suddenly have other people show up and have a conflict?
Does it,
Them to work it out.
does the car show, do they ask the council, or do they come to the council and ask any permission to close streets and do this, that, and the other, like they're
That's
supposed to?
That's traditionally been, well, closing the street, the authority of that lays with the state of Washington, and the.
But they-
basically,
Yeah, but the
mayor-
city submits the paperwork.
But there's other
Supposed to,
street,
but at
there's,
the end of the day, the city has to say that they're in support of the road being closed or not. So that's traditionally the way it's been done.
And this is under the purview of the mayor, basically.
Yeah.
It's not the council.
Traditionally it has been.
well, there's language that they,
But I don't think that's come to council in years past, though.
No, I don't think so either.
I don't believe it has.
I think procedurally, it probably would be good if every road closure has a vote of the council.
it's supposed to, RCWs, or MSRCs. Either way, permission from the city, has that been taking place? Because there's other
Yes.
roads other than the state, city, main Third Street out here.
Yeah, you know,
There's other,
at the end of the day, there's 4 different events that happen in Harrington that the road gets closed. And each one of them is beneficial to the community and to the businesses in town and to the residents in town, and, you know, it's important for the town to see that continue. So, as long as it's being done safely and with the right approvals.
no problems there as long as procedures are followed, insurances and permissions and permits.
Yeah, you
But it's
all
can't
that,
shut
'cause
the,
you start-
you can't shut the street down without proof of insurance. That's a requirement for the state,
Right.
so.
As far as the town square, I would just suggest that it be identified as it's first come, first served. The city will not get involved in arguments associated with space.
I think that's how a lot of parks work. I know there's also sometimes some parks like in Spokane stuff that have pavilions where you have to reserve the pavilion. So I think there's precedence if we did want to move to having it reserved, but at least until we see a problem, I don't really think we should inject ourselves in the middle of it.
Okay. Easy enough.
They want to go out there and rope it off the morning of and say ban space, that's up to them.
Yeah. Okay. I wanted,
Well,
like I
that's-
said, I just wanted to have that discussion openly, so, okay. Additions, burning of Ecology Park.
Yeah, so I spoke to Brandon associated with that. He made mention that he was interested in turning it into a training exercise.
I'm all for it. I had left him a message and I had not heard back, so.
Yeah, I would suggest getting a hold of him because if they're gonna burn it, they're gonna want to do it soon.
Yes,
So,
okay,
and as a training exercise, there is a chance that the funding requirement from the city would go away. Is my understanding.
okay.
So,
Okay, I'll reach out to him again. I reached out to him a couple weeks ago and like I said, I haven't heard back. So, okay, was anything else on that?
nope.
Okay.
Yes.
The other thing was road closures during inclement winter weather in Harrington. Stephen, that was something you wanted to have an open conversation on?
Yeah, so I was just wanting to bring up that on the road north of my house, that many people know as the sledding hill, there was a lot of sand that was dropped this year, which I will say, it's refreshing. I think that's the first time since I moved here that hill was sanded. So that is really a great step as far as our attentiveness towards that. I will give kudos to our employees, our Public Works Department for doing that. But there's some places where there's an inch thick of sand on that road now, and we don't have a street sweeper anymore, and it's difficult to get that off. And so it just brought up a larger question of what should we do about that road, because that road is one of the more difficult ones in town. If you think about all the roads that we have as far as what kind of a slope do they have to them, that's probably one of the most difficult ones to deal with. The other thing that's come to my mind is there's a reason why it's called the sledding hill, because when there's enough snow that comes on it, which is less prevalent than it used to be, but you get enough snow and you will find kids out on that hill, trying to sled. And I don't really love the concept of there trying to be cars coming up from the bottom, revving their engines to try and make it up through the snow, and kids trying to come down at the same time. So in order to not have to worry about sanding it, and also it's not the first time I've seen a snow truck stuck in my junipers. Not that that happened this year, but I've seen that before too. So plowing it can be difficult. And then there's the risk to kids and cars being on the same thing. I would just think about closing that in the wintertime, which there is precedence for historically, and then plowing up from the bottom on the north side to take care of the houses on that street, so they would go down and across the tracks to go out instead of up the hill, which I think in many ways is smarter given the potential for ice and everything on that slope anyway.
When was that road redone?
4 years ago?
22. I was on council when it was done.
So 2 years ago?
2 years
21
ago.
or
It was
20.
2 years ago, yeah. It's the newest road in town.
And how much of that sand do
So-
we expect would be accumulated due to the runoff?
None, we put it all on there.
No, I mean,
Oh.
he's saying there's places where it's an inch thick, but we've had a lot of rain, the melt off, all that, washing that sand down the
Well,
road.
Well, actually, I saw it when it happened. It was put on with a backhoe, a bucket.
Oh, it was. It was
wasn't
actually
spread.
dumped.
Yeah.
It wasn't
The-
spread.
The first go around,
But
we got sand on it just to do something. We didn't pull the plow out because it was turning ice. And then the second go around, the second layer of snow that we had this year, that's when the plow came up, and of course that's got the sander in it. So yeah, the first round was just spread with the backhoe.
My only suggestion, I would not want it closed unless conditions warrant it.
Yeah, not
And
for
if
the
it
whole winter.
melts again, then it's open again. Because I know where they're all going to be driving by if that hill's closed. It's up the gravel road by my place, and all the gravel when they plow that road is going to be in the ditch, and then I've re-gravelled that road myself. So,
Got it.
And that's a good point. And just add some here. Traditionally, the hill I live on has been closed before. Mm-hmm. And the city maintenance, they stuck out signs and they used it. Everybody kind of got along. Mm-hmm. But I think first and foremost, we got our city's obligation is for public safety, for traffic and the residents, fire, whatever, emergency services. Now it seemed to work out yesteryears that you get the conditions, which we haven't had for some time. They would put up the signs and close, just sawhorses there, and they would close it on both ends, and the kids could play. Now that's two things come to mind, and you don't have kids play on railroad tracks for a reason, and so you're kind of we kind of got along. We kind of worked hand in hand.
Yeah.
But it was at the discretion of the conditions, like Creighton as you said. I don't know if we.
I
need
didn't know that was something that was done traditionally. I think it's a great idea. I mean, I'm happy to let them know and, come up with a process, especially to let the fire department know that we're closing that down because we're not gonna sand it. So
You're
they know.
talking about closing from Second,
to the railroad track. Well,
to Third, basically.
from Second to Third.
Yeah, down
Yeah.
Adams, isn't it?
Yeah.
yes.
I would be very cautious with that.
I was thinking we'd probably only need to go down as far as the RV park, so those
Well,
people
actually-
can come in and out.
Well, no, I'm
Because that's about
thinking,
where it flattens out.
I'm thinking the liability of not actually plowing that. I mean, you've got,
Well, it was always plowed, but it wasn't sanded. I mean, you had a nice slick.
I can remember
compact.
running hoses down there to ice it up. Just saying.
I mean, stuff happened and did that. So, yes, true. But
It was a luge course.
if the city closes that to allow kids.
the goal was to get to the railroad tracks.
Somebody gets injured in that process, the city becomes liable for the injury. If they do it at their own discretion with the city doing it on their, or the kids doing it on their own, we hold very limited liability. You close that road to allow kids to sled on it and we hold the liability.
I'm saying we
That
close
is
the
high
road
risk.
to keep cars from going down it because we're not.
'Cause it's
gonna
too
plow it.
slick.
It's too slick and it's too snowy. And
That's our reasoning.
Hence,
and our snow, even our plow has a hard time managing it. So
well, operator error. I didn't say that, but yes, I did. But anyways, yes, all those come into play. And the main goal here is don't put de-ice and sand on it. I think Stephen was, there's an issue with that, I see that.
well, we've got to clean it up.
So-
just like we do most.
But you
of
can
the
still
cities.
plow it in like I said, the right conditions, it's slick.
Well, in the little plow, you can actually adjust the pitch of the blade, where the big plow, you can't do that. So with the big plow, you had to go from bottom to top. Where with the little plow, you can go in either direction and actually
Our
plow.
truck now goes left and right.
That thing's stuck on the big one. You can't pivot that.
It's mechanically stuck.
That's what I was informed. That's why they wanted to get the little plow working, because it's easier to
Yeah.
pivot.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and to David's point, I forgot that hill was also closed. The nice thing about closing that one is that road is so torn up anyways, I wouldn't want to plow that road.
Yeah.
Well, I think I don't even know if we still have the signs.
Well, we've
I
got the
haven't-
road closed signs. I mean,
Yeah, we
we
haven't-
put out the same ones that
We
we
haven't
put out
seen
for. And quite honestly, we can deploy them. When we see snow coming, it takes one person to drag it out there or carry it out there. They're not
Right.
heavy. The bigger issue is if we have wind, we probably want to make sure we have anchors to make sure they don't get blown around and broken.
But they're also, when you're coming on, what street is it? Off of the Tokyo Road, and you're coming, going west, is that Adams, or is that Link, what is that? That's not Adams.
It's Adams Street.
It's Adams, okay. Yes, it is Adams. So when you're heading west, and when they put the signs out, it was right there at Second, I believe. So if it's slick out, you're not gonna, you know, if
No,
you're,
you'd have to put them, you'd have to give the warning way
Way
ahead.
back, yes.
Road's
I mean-
closed, and we've got those, road closed ahead.
so, I don't know, what I'm hearing out of Councilman Hardy is the sand and the
Well, and then you're also
Instead of-
talking about rerouting any traffic that would want to go through there, down Second, across Sherlock, and back up Fourth.
I think we just play it by ear. Don't sand it and you don't de-ice it, and I don't know, what do you think?
I would say clean it up and see what happens next year.
I would concur with that.
You know,
If it's a problem next year, then we consider doing something about it.
Stephen can keep the road closed signs in his garage.
There you go.
Well, if that's what it takes, I mean, the Lord gives a great and stored enough things for the community benefit and the shop.
That's right.
Okay. Any other discussion on that?
I'm good.
Okay.
I should ask, do you have any questions? Historical.
No, I
Okay.
personally, I like the idea of having it closed and, quite honestly, mine is a completely different deal. I mean, that's just one more place we have to go and clean up come spring. And obviously it got heavily sanded and I got basically a complaint about it from another person, so.
Yeah, well,
So, anyway, we'll address that when we get closer.
we called that Layton's Hill.
And Stephen, I'll let you know.
You almost
and,
need four-wheel drive to get up
Let Tim
that
know
hill
when
right
we're
now.
able to have
It's so
some
sandy.
mechanism out here to get all that
Slick.
swept out.
I know,
Well, I swept the intersection, so it's a little better now.
Okay.
that's one of my discussions that seem to go on the wayside of, just we get busy, is prior to winter in the fall, late summer, early fall, is getting together with the state. I think they were a little, my personal opinion is they're a little bit generous with the sand
And they were a
throughout
lot
the town.
lighter this year than they were last year.
And the county leaving, I mean, some of it, yes, but I think there's been, Old City Hall Hill is referred to, that's a given, you know, for truck traffic and, you know, and all that. But the amount I've seen through the other corridors, I thought was excessive.
I don't
So,
know, they put a lot of liquid de-icer down this.
They did both.
They did. They put a lot of liquid de-icer.
They only put sand down when it truly got slick.
but
We had a couple of time periods where it got really slick.
I'm not against, when you need to, you need to.
Yeah.
But the big question is, who's responsible for picking it up and taking care of it?
Well, technically, on this Third Street all the way through, it's not the city.
Yeah, I think I know they had a street sweeper in town, but I don't know where it went or who drove it, and it was there for a week and now it's gone, so.
And yeah.
So I don't know if it ran, but it wasn't designed to pick up, it was just basically designed to shove it off to the side into the ditch.
They use it on the highway to blow it all off into the ditch.
Okay,
Another subject, sorry.
consent agenda.
I move we pass. Didn't we already do this? No, we didn't.
This is approving it.
This
This is
Yeah, I
approving
move
it.
we approve the consent agenda.
Second,
okay.
I knew we voted something on it.
it was close.
Okay, we have a first and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
I
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, Mayor's comments. Been a lot going on. Wastewater treatment plant. So I think I told you guys last time that we opened bids. Okay.
Yes.
So we opened bids. The lowest bid was $2,061,720, which was significantly over the amount of money that we had available.
900,000 or something, I think.
So, a lot of back and forth, a lot of teeth gnashing, a lot of some finger pointing, but the bottom line was there was a meeting today in Spokane with the Department of Ecology and the Department of Commerce. And in that meeting, it basically, after going through everything that was done, where the dollars are at and why it came up so much higher than what they were anticipating the cost to be, the recommendation of our engineer is that we reject all bids.
Okay.
And the reason I bring it up specifically is because at the next meeting, we'll have to have a motion to formally
Dump
give it
them.
the thumbs down. Yep. Now, what the plan is, and I don't want to get into the weeds unless you guys want to. This was something that was going to involve a whole bunch of different working pieces, and we talked about where we could cut costs. So, starting from basically the wastewater comes into the plant, first thing it does is goes through what they call a rotating screen. Purpose of that is to rotate and pull out all the hard debris that doesn't belong in the plant. Diapers, tampons, stuff that people have managed to flush down. It's supposed to catch all that so it can basically get separated out, not go through the plant, and goes into a garbage can. The plan as it was originally done was to have that unit placed in a building. That building estimates contributed probably $300,000 to the project. And then I heard that Wilbur has the same system in their wastewater plant, but it doesn't have a building on it. It doesn't have to be in a building. It can actually, just needs a roof and some walls to kind of, or not walls, but a screen basically to keep the wind out and what have you. And then I found out actually the building that they engineered, they had to do a whole bunch of extra engineering in it to get enough airflow through it so you didn't have too much swamp gas building up inside it. So,
Why don't you just put a metal building around it?
well, no, the conclusion was no building at all. Just literally a roof to keep the snow and other stuff off it. Cyclone fence is adequate around it with just slats, you know, through the
Right.
fence. If it gets super cold, they have mechanisms out there with, you can put further covers on it and heat tape and what have you to make sure that it still functions for those. But the system is designed to operate in temperatures down to -10. And I know we can go lower than that, but it's not that often, for not long. It's often,
For
but
here.
not long. So, that was the first thing we said, let's drop that. There was a plan, I told you guys about the 2 concrete boxes down there where everything's flowing through. Somebody, a former mayor had requested that there be a roof system basically put over all of that. It's not needed. It's $100,000 of expense. So the conclusion was, when they put all this stuff together, we'll take there's 2 concrete channels there. One of them has the new equipment going in it, the other one's gonna be abandoned. We'll fill that full of gravel, sand, put a membrane over the top of it, and we won't destroy it. I mean, it might come back into play later on, but we can at least just take it offline, keep debris and water out of it. the aeration ponds. It was determined that in reality, both of them are probably overkill and not needed at all. With the new system that they have where everything goes through and breaks it apart and bottom line is they shouldn't be needed. The plan called for one of them to be abandoned and the other one to be relined with, sounded like a pretty elaborate electronic leak detection system underneath it.
Mm-hmm.
And then a thicker membrane over the top of that. So they're gonna run the numbers, but they think they can just take both of those out of the equation. So we would basically be going through this moving bed biofilm reactor and then up into the sand trap and then back into the reactor, sand trap, or the sand filter is what it's called. And then after 2 or 3 times cycling through all that, it ends up in the, they refer to them as the leaky wetlands, basically the ponds that are down there. We're hoping that by doing all of that, it'll pull down the price, pull down the cost of everything, and get within the dollars that we have to spend.
Ecology has signed off on this?
No.
Oh, no.
Well, they were there. They didn't say no.
Okay.
But these numbers have to be run to show that our, the amount of material that's coming in and how it gets processed and they'll have to do all the scientific math on it to show that it's getting broken down correctly. They asked me what Harrington wanted and I said, it's very simple. I said, I want it to be clean, easy to operate, cheap, and it doesn't need to be a Cadillac.
Low maintenance.
Low maintenance, yeah. All that stuff. We don't need roofs and buildings and stuff that have to be further managed, so.
Not to rebuild it in 10 years again.
Exactly. So that's where that is at. I did get I got a commitment that they will have the re-engineering, which should be relatively simple. They're not trying to rebuild it, they're just altering and pulling parts out of the existing plan. They said they would have it done in a couple of months to have all that done. And then it goes to ecology. Ecology goes through all the numbers, signs off on it, and then we can go back out to bid.
So timeline, the way these guys work, we could be looking at,
August.
So we have
yeah,
to,
at
it
best.
has to be
At
done.
best.
It has to be done in I think July of 2026
Okay,
is,
Finished or
plans.
started?
I think ground has to be broken.
Okay.
But I'm gonna be pushing. I found out that once it's done, it's signed off, the bid's done, the contractor can then order the bits and pieces that they need to order. And right now they're standing at 5 months out to get those built and sent to us. This
I
moving
suppose you
bed
deal with that.
biofilm reactor is basically a series of plates that the stuff runs over and it breaks it down and makes it do wonderful things and all the rest of it.
Yeah,
I'm
we
not
don't-
gonna lie, the thing I like about all of this is our electricity bill down there is pretty big because that aeration motor is running 24/7. That goes away. And that aeration motor, they are not perpetual. They run out, or they wear out about every 5 to 6 years, and they're 10 grand a piece.
I was gonna say, they're about 10 grand, aren't they?
So, and then the end result is, and this has always been the case, when this is all done, we can have our permit with ecology rewritten, and we should be able to have our testing reduced dramatically. So
The frequency.
like once a month instead of once a week. So
Awesome.
that's a 75% bill savings.
So that's the plan, because they're like, going, well, it's only $500,000. And I'm like, going, if I got $500,000, there's water systems and stuff that need money, you know. So we've got the money for this. Let's just pare it down and make this happen. So,
So, Mr. Mayor, question,
yeah.
we have until July of 2026 to break ground, you said?
Yeah, and
Something like that.
and I can get that, because I heard 2025 or 2026 and 2027 thrown around, and it had to do with the money is going to expire.
Oh, that's my next question. If we
Yeah.
don't, if it doesn't take place, then you lose the funding, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
and I believe as it is, we already have to file an extension. But since, the nice thing is, since all the players were there, you know, everyone heard what was going on and why, and in one meeting, all the power, I mean, there were people there from Olympia and locally in Spokane, so
Yeah.
it was a thing. So that's probably the one biggest thing that we've been working on. We're gonna have the amendment from Sunshine to look at. Hopefully, I need to get the final information for the attorney, and that hopefully will come up as an item to review at the next meeting.
The whole contract or proposal.
Yeah, they're proposing basically amending the current, what we're currently doing, just extending it out for 5 more years with a couple of caveats.
Do they, do they have in there, I didn't get to touch on it too much, but I like the caps on the stuff, which the standard is boilerplate in a lot of language on our, protecting us. But the stuff in there, I don't know what the current one says. They seem like they want to raise it if the fuel goes up. I mean, we're doing this
I'll have to reread it.
fluctuating prices and stuff.
Yeah,
And-
well, when he was here, he said it was going to be the CPI, period. No fuel load.
Okay, that's what,
But I gotta reread it, because I thought I saw there was something in it that talked about fuel.
right.
So I wanna make sure that it is strictly CPI.
Was there anything added to it about the city being able to submit requests against the customer list for?
So
Can
it's
replacements.
not in it, but they have a commitment to keep in touch with us monthly of sending us a bill, a list of people who are getting behind. Our current code, I went through it, it allows us, our teeth, if you will, if somebody's not paying it, is to shut off water.
Well, I know, but like I said, I contacted them and asked, okay, what do I gotta do to actually get my can changed? And it was, well, here's the email address, you have to submit it in writing, and can we develop some kind of form down here that somebody can come in and say, I want this can now, here's my signature, and that gets submitted to them instead of,
Are you, so you're talking about,
literally, I went to Sunshine, I wanted to change the 1 yard to a 1.5 for the Harrington house,
You're
and their
changing- response
response was, well, you need to type up a letter in email and send it to this email address, and I was like,
I'll talk to him about the customer
I got a what?
service.
so you're not just replacing something, you're changing service size.
Actually adding service.
yeah,
Yeah,
but because I'm changing service size, I had to,
that's a question.
I was like, okay, well, is there like a standard form for this? Is there something
I'll find
specific
out.
you need?
I'll find out. I'm having a conversation with Brian tomorrow,
I mean,
because I agree, it'd be easier to just check a box and sign it and send it off, so.
well, and I'd also
Give it to the
like,
driver.
I'd also like a better understanding about can placement. The Harrington House's trash cans have always faced in one direction. There was a reason for it. When the wind blows through, it keeps the lids closed. And after the last week, they flipped the cans around, and now we're picking up trash out of the alley constantly.
Don't leave your name on it.
Well, the trash can's got a big old sign on it that says Harrington House.
The trash.
And it's like, you've got to be kidding me.
Well, I know they make locks and they make all sorts of stuff for it.
Well, I know, but
And
the
make
week
it
before I had
inconvenience.
coyotes freaking
Yeah.
trying to get into the garbage can. So,
I will bring those to his attention. I mean, he's our marketing guy, so.
I just,
The floor is clean. I appreciate that.
There was a comment made, thank you.
It's a lot better.
I also met with Mr. Acoustic Tile, and he's gonna go through and see what he's got in his warehouse.
Okay, it doesn't matter what, long as it's kind of white.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of them are a lot lighter than those old fiber ones too, so. And when, it's the 15th?
15th is the Leffelos in Warwick. There's Lions Club the first Wednesday, whatever that is.
Okay, I'll make a point of getting those. I'll talk to him when I'm in town.
And then there's the 15th and the 16th. There's the 16th, I think, is Lions Club again.
Okay. Okay, we'll get that handled.
Motion to adjourn. Well, we got public comments, but there's nobody here.
There's nobody here, so, okay, we have a motion to adjourn
second.
and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Oh, you're still there.
Leave them all asleep. 8:10.
It might not be long.
Okay.
See you,
Feel
Stephen.
better, man.
See you, Steve.
Mics are still hot. Is there anything for us to sign?